If you're 62 and you're sitting on around 1.2 million, you've probably asked yourself this question at least once. Am I actually ready to retire? Or am I about to make a mistake? Because here's the confusing part. Some people will tell you that's more than enough. Others will tell you you're not even close. And the truth is, both can be right. After working with thousands of retirees over the last several years, I can tell you this. The people who struggle in retirement usually don't save too little. They saved without a plan for how their money actually works. We've seen people with 7 figures feel stuck, feel anxious, and afraid to spend. And we've seen others retire confidently with less because they actually understood how income, taxes, and timing can actually work together. So in this video, we're going to break it down. We're going to walk through what does 1.2 million really mean in retirement, the 4 biggest risks that most people completely miss, and why income matters more than net worth, and how to tell if you're truly ready to retire or just hoping you are. By the end, you'll know exactly where you stand and what actually matters when making this decision. So Alvin, why does this question matter so much right now?
Because if you're at age 62, you got a lot of decisions that are coming up. If we said 50, you had some time. Well, 62, man, the bell is ringing and you're behind at this point. You've got to decide on Social Security eligibility, early retirement temptations, market uncertainty. You got to consider that. You got burnout and health concerns. You got to determine what are you going to do about these things. And most people focus on the number, not the plan. They start to get weary and fearful about outliving their money. The market crashes that would happen early in retirement that would just take them into a downward spiral. Taxes destroying their income. And then, man, the crazy healthcare costs that they can never, ever, ever foresee. So we see people all the time who technically could retire, but emotionally, they don't feel safe doing it. That's why they have to do a plan.
So let's talk about what can 1.2 million really look like. Walk us through a typical scenario.
Let's do a generalization, right? You're here, you got 1.2 million in the bank. Let's say you're age 62. Why is 62 important? Because that's when you could typically claim early retirement. Your portfolio has 1.2. Let's talk about being married. You've got no pension or very little. Social Security, do I take it from age 62? Do I take it at age 67? You know, I've got a decent lifestyle. You know what I mean? I'm not quote unquote too extravagant. Now you got to talk about these things, right? The 4% rule. That's only $48,000 when you multiply 1.2 million against 4%, and that's before taxes. I don't even know anywhere in the United States where that's still a lot of money. Taxes reduce that so much. Inflation every year starts to eat into it at 2 or 3 or 4%, depending on who's telling you about it. Healthcare costs start to add up, and then to boot, you got market volatility that could potentially downward spiral your account at the worst moment. People hear 1.2 million, Lisa, and they think they're set. But the question really is set for what lifestyle? Because it's not all about the money, it's all about how your life is structured. What are you able to do?
What would you say, what do you constantly see are the 4 biggest risks that people face?
Well, clearly, we talk about this over and over again, and this is the most misunderstood. Number 1 is sequence of returns. If the market drops early in your retirement, that could devastate your income. Because remember, the rule of 4% is based on their balance. If the 2008 happens again, and all of a sudden you lose 30, 40%, your income just dropped 40%. This is more dangerous when you're targeting low returns. And timing matters more than averages. Everybody says, I've averaged 7% over the years. But that has nothing to do with your actual income. Sequence of returns is like, when do I retire? I mean, you said it in a prior video, if you retired at 2007 when the market was on an all-time high and you moved your money to safe pastures, boom, you wouldn't have been impacted at all by the market downturn. But if you waited 2-3 years and retired in 2009, your income would be 30, 40%. In fact, that's why you saw all those people in videos, they just were crying because they couldn't retire at that point. So number 1 is sequence of returns. You have to master that. Number 2, taxes. I've never heard anybody say, I love to pay taxes. In fact, RMDs takes the control out of it. Now you're forced to pay taxes. Social Security taxation, the way it works, it doesn't work like when you were working. So you have to plan. Medicare and IRMA is affected by your income taxes and how taxes silently reduce income. Remember, it's not about how much you make, it's how much you keep, and how much you keep will determine what your income stream would look like. Number 3, Lisa, healthcare and longevity. Everyone thinks they're going to be fine. Everyone thinks they're going to live forever. In pre-Medicare, 62 to 65, there's no health insurance coming in yet. So if you retire early, how are you going to overcome sickness? How are you going to pay for that? Because if you stop working, where is the money going to come from to pay for that? And pre-Medicare gap insurance is very expensive. Secondly is long-term care costs when it comes to healthcare. I personally am living that right now with my mother-in-law. We never expected exactly at age 80 she would have had a stroke. And next thing you know, long-term care costs are through the roof. I want to honor my parents. I want to do that. I want to honor my in-laws. And it's my honor to do that, but we've got to shuffle around. I'm glad we prepared for it. And last but not least, people are living longer than ever expected. So we're dealing with these things longer. Outliving your money is a true thing that you need to deal with these days. Risk number 4, they don't have an income strategy. They have investments, but no income plan. We talk about it. Going up the mountain is when you're accumulating. Coming down the mountain is when you're spending. And most people, they don't plan, or they use the same strategy that they use going up when coming down, and those don't work in the same manner. The difference between having money and having income are two entirely different things. So a key takeaway is people need to think like they're retired so that they can foresee what's going on, and they need to actually just make sure that they're not just unemployed with investments. Most people, they're just like, oh, I'm unemployed now and I have investments, and no plan to replace their income. That is tragic. So up to now, we've talked about the risks most retirees don't see coming. Market timing, taxes, healthcare, not having an actual income strategy. And if you're watching this thinking, okay, this is making sense, but I don't know how this applies to me, that's completely normal. That's why we built a simple next step. There's a link below where you can share a few details about your situation and book a call with our team. We will walk you through the same process we use with the retirees we work with day in and day out. We're going to look at income, taxes, and timing so you can see where you stand and what actually needs attention. There's no pressure, but also there's no guessing. All you'll get is clarity. Now let's keep going, because this next part is where everything starts to come together.
So Alvin, talk to us about what does a smart retirement plan look like? We have 4 pillars, right?
We love the pillars.
We love the pillars.
Let's start with the first one, income mapping. Like we said, you're taking a journey, you need a map, okay? Guaranteed income versus variable income, there is a difference. When I ask people, how much of your income do you want to make sure comes in when you're in retirement? Everybody's like, all of it. But all of their money is coming from variable income, sources like 401ks and using the rule of 4%. Well, that's not going to work. It's just not structured properly. Social Security timing and strategy. Optimization makes a big difference when the income comes in. And analyzing for gaps. Gaps of, I want to retire early, but I don't have health insurance. I want to retire a little bit later because I want to maximize. That not necessarily is the right thing to do. You've got to follow the map. Number 2 is tax strategy. Conversions, Roth conversions. That's the difference between having tax forever income versus tax never income, okay? We want to avoid tax brackets that you will hit that will just shoot you up into higher monies paid. That takes management, that takes planning. And we definitely don't want to have the RMD trap come in where you're forced to take income and it spikes you into higher brackets. Number 3, investment allocation shifts. Guys, you got to understand, when you're accumulating, you're in a growth scenario. But when you're in income, you've got to put stability into place. So we got to reduce volatility. We got to protect our downside more so than ever, because we're not adding any more to the pot. We're taking from it, we're withdrawing from it. So investment allocation is so important, and most people don't make any changes. You know, they're going 100 miles an hour straight into retirement, and then they're wondering why they run out of gas. Last but definitely not least is withdrawal order. Got to do taxable monies first, then tax deferred, Roth ones last, And then if you have tax-free income from cash value insurances, you can access those. But the order matters. You cannot just haphazardly take withdrawals. So the key takeaway I want everyone to have is it's not how much you have, it's how efficiently you use it, which makes or breaks the quality of your retirement.
I love that. I love our pillars. Alvin, let's talk through a real family that we've helped recently.
So, age 62, Ratish and his wife, high-level IT professional, which is where you came from, and making great money. He had 1.2 million saved, contemplating, should I retire now? He was nervous about the market recently because obviously we've had volatility. Absolutely nervous about taxes because he's getting hammered because he makes good money. Let's go through. What is it that you want your retirement to look like? We actually started with the end in mind. Okay, what does it look like? Then we reverse engineered and said, here's what the numbers actually show you're going to achieve if you stay on this track. Well, he wasn't happy with that because obviously it was going to be lower. We always think it's going to be higher. So I said, okay, here's the actuals. With most conservatism, this is the actuals. So now he was like, well, how do we change that? We made some adjustments. We adjusted the income timing. We adjusted his tax positioning. In his particular case, we introduced him to our in-house tax strategist, and we got massive tax strategies that we harvested, and we did conversions immediately for him. He didn't have to wait. That lowered his stress. We immediately turned literally like almost $400,000 into tax-free Roth immediately because of the tax harvesting. He got higher confidence, and he wasn't going to retire at 62. We found that that was a mistake, but he was going to prolong it to 64, but he was going to do it with confidence. The key takeaway again, he wasn't short on money. He just didn't have clarity. And if he acted without clarity, he would have made mistakes that could not be turned back because there are mistakes that are irreversible.
Absolutely. So let's ask the real question. How crucial is it to have this shift in perspective?
Perspective is important, but perspective only comes when you have a plan and you have clarity. So the question is, can I retire on 1.2 million? Of course you can. But do you know what kind of income that's going to support? What kind of lifestyle you're going to have? Are you working from the end, reversing backwards? Do you have a professional like me or you holding your hand? My dad always told me, don't ever go to court and represent yourself, and don't ever do surgery on yourself because that's a good way for you to go to jail or die prematurely, and neither are ones I want to do. Same thing, if you try to plan your income, that's a great way to run out of money before you run out of life. So 1.2, is it possible? Yes, but you got to really do planning on lifestyle goals, flexibility. That way we can get you peace of mind and we can get you the longevity aspect that you're looking in your income.
So if you're still watching, there's a good chance this video hit close to home. And that's not a bad thing because the real question isn't, can I retire with 1.2 million? It's, can my income support the life that I want? Safely, tax efficiently, and without constant stress. At Valoram Solutions, we help people in exactly this situation get clarity around whether they can retire realistically. How can their income actually work in retirement? How taxes will impact your plan? And what needs to change, if anything, to feel confident moving forward. So if you want to walk through your numbers with someone who does this every single day, you can book a conversation using the link below. And if you're not quite ready for that step yet, that's totally fine. Stick around. I'd recommend watching the next video on your screen. Once I show retirees this system, their income becomes predictable. It breaks down how retirement income should actually be structured so they're not constantly second guessing every single decision. Because the people who retire well aren't luckier than everyone else. They're just better prepared.